This is Sam Vaughn for Sam's Sports Report. Let's talk trade deadline talk about the Royals. But first, we get to yesterday's games. In yesterday's games, Sunday, the Cubs beat up on the Royals 7-3, giving up 3 in the ninth by guess who? Kevin McArthur. Looks like the closer. I know they weren't up, but he came in the ninth. He blew another game on Wednesday. Not so thrilled. 7-3 Cubs. Royals lose the series and finish at 500 on a homestand, which they started 3-0. And Cardinals beat the Washington Nationals 4-3 on a Paul Goldschmidt home run to win the game. That's it. Monday baseball. Royals and White Sox 7-10. The Cubs have announced they're selling. And here we go with more baseball. Royals trades that they could be interested in. Closer Carlos Everett. The Angels have been publicly hesitant to say they will consider trading, meaning Tyler Anderson and Tyler Ward could be staying put. Everett likely won't, because they have more than 1 year deal left on. The closer, 31-year-old closer, sustained a hot start last season, but he has a 2.45 ERA, WHIP 0.76. He's appeared over 33 games in 2024. Has gotten better as the season has gone on. Everest is heading for free agency this winter. Another player, Jesse, outfielder Nationals. The Nationals have signed wrinkly, low-risk 1 year deal. Hopes he could bounce back and emerge as the Jimmer Claretto last year. So these are some of the players that they've named in the article posted in the link. The Nationals signed a low-risk Chasem of the Marlins outfielder. By all accounts, the Marlins are willing to listen to trades for Jazz Kleiman, despite him having a team control through 2026. A rare, healthy season former prospect. Time strikes a deal. Combs is a career OPS of 751, hitting 251, 13 home runs, 7. This year he's been averaging to slightly above average hitter, healthy since departing in 2020. Will always be concerned as the strikeout rate dropped every single season to more strikeouts. The Marlins should not have a problem getting a curriculum. If it wouldn't surprise them if they had to wait until the winter. Outfielder Bretton Ricker, he's a free agent. He's not a free agent until 2027, but the A's are willing to listen for any interest. The price will be high, with lacking hitting available. Deadline could haul. The 29-year-old offers defense, but doesn't matter much when you're carrying a 948 OPS and has been red hot this last month, hitting 291, 23 home runs, and OPS of 169 on the year after breaking out with 30 home runs last season. The A's won't feel any pressure trading Rooker, but a deal can't be ruled out knowing how they operate. Best teams fits: Royals, Braves, Phillies. That to end the show. This is Sam Vaughn for Sam's Sports Report.
Trade deadline coming up. We've already seen them make one move. Hunter Harvey, sorry, hasn't had a lot of time to pitch yet, but he's already been over. Clearly, he's going to be a guy with the stuff to face the meat of the order in the high leverage situations. So, Chris, let's just start off with the first one here. One that maybe doesn't get done just because it is a division rival in Detroit Tigers, but outfielder Mark Canha, a guy that has been around the MLB for a while. Consistent hitter, decent outfielder, could put him up there towards the top of the lineup as a potential leadoff guy, but a guy who's been consistent over his time. What can you tell us about Mark Canha and why is he on this list to trade for?
Yeah, I think Mark Canha is the cheapest option to improve the leadoff spot. Like that's what that's what all the fans are talking about. Like just put someone in front of Bobby so that Bobby, Vinny, and Salvi, three guys that are in the top 10 in RBIs in the American League, have an extra guy that gets on base because like Adam Frazier is not working. Michael, when he's hot, but like his on base percentage is terrible. Canha in a down year still would have the second best on base percentage on this Royals team. So like, no, he's not going to be your prototypical go out and steal bases, but he's going to work a professional at bat. He crushes lefties, which this team needs. I think this team likes their lineup against right-handed pitching, with Massey and MJ and even Renfroe all hitting better against right-handed pitching. Canha would be an everyday guy that actually hits lefties better. So like he plays the corner outfield, so he can play first. He even has history at third, so then a pinch if you need to play him there. I wouldn't suggest that being like the new third baseman, but he can play there in a pinch, which I know Q likes. So give me Canha to in the leadoff spot ahead of Bobby. Give me that three. His career on base percentage is 350. He's hitting 340 right now. So like I don't think it'd be that expensive. I think you would get rid of one of your infield prospects. Probably Javier Vaz would be mine, which is the 14th Royals prospect according to MLB.com. But like the 14th in the Royal system, which is ranked 28th, is like a 20th prospect
Yeah.
for most others. So so like you see 14, you think that's I think that's about what Canha goes. I don't think he would be super expensive.
Yeah, probably one of the cheapest outfield options. The first one here, if we were talking outfield that we've seen the most talk about, has probably been that he might go for more. But that could be you could easily swap those two guys here. But if Canha does come over, how do you see him fitting into the lineup? Whose spot is he taking? Like, is this a Hunter Renfroe takes a few more days off a week? Is this he slides into your everyday left field, and then when MJ's back, he's the rotational? Where do you see him fitting?
I see him like 100% starting against lefties, so that MJ's out, and then I think he kind of just fits in like, Freddie for me, it's not it only plays about 3 times a week, so that way when Freddie's playing first and it's a lefty, or Freddie's catching and it's a lefty, Salvi can DH because Canha can play first, or against a righty, like Vinny can DH and Canha can play first. Like I think that he's going to play like 6 days a week, but you're going to see him in left, you're going to see him in right, you're going to see him at first, you're going to see him at DH. So I think like that's what's nice about it is he will 100% play against all lefties, and then I think still against the tougher righty, he may give like a Renfroe a day off, or when Freddie's not playing, it'll be DH. Like that's kind of where I see him fitting in.
Yep, I like the move there too because I think he'd be a better third option at first than the random Hunter Renfroe start there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Nick Lofton's getting reps at first
Yeah,
sometimes. Like, no, Mark Canha, actually, that's where he's played the most this year for the Tigers. So,
yeah,
dude hits for pop and walks more.
yeah.
Like,
There you
I
go.
mean, what more do you want? Like,
Yeah, because I could see at the surface level.
yeah, his OPS, again, he's having a down year for him, and his OPS is just under 700 as it currently speaks, which is like 100 points higher than Adam Frazier. Like, this dude gets hot. His career OPS is 764. He was hitting 800 when he got traded, or OPS of 800 when he got traded to the Brewers last year. Like, this is a guy that, again, he's not a star, and he should probably be the fifth or sixth option, or hitting fifth or sixth in most lineups, but the Royals have such a leadoff issue that I think he's a cheap fix that you could throw in at the one spot.
Yeah, and I think what you said there is he's got the ability to get hot more frequently.
Yeah, Adam Frazier does not. Garrett
Yeah,
Hampson does not.
yeah. Those guys might get hot hitting the ball for singles,
Right.
but not
Canada
doing
could
enough
go on
to
a
really.
stretch where he hits
Yeah.
an extra base, has an extra base hit in every game.
Yeah, and Frazier's been decent in the leadoff spot, but yeah, still an upgrade there. Okay, let's move on to number 2. This is one that I know you and I definitely like a lot because he would fill multiple needs on this team, and that is calling up the Angels, who definitely are in a sell mode and should be getting rid of everybody. And that is third baseman Luis Rengifo, who has been off to a really good year for them. I know he had an even better year last year, so he's down a little bit from last year's numbers, but overall, he fulfills a lot of positional needs on this team. Why do we like Rengifo?
Because he can play the entire infield. He's a switch hitter, and he's hitting 308 this year. Like that's what the Royals want. Like he's not a huge walk guy. He is a swing. So like he may go into the leadoff spot just because of necessity, because Bobby doesn't want it. He's not your prototypical, but he's like Michael, but he has better results. So like I think he would go into the first spot too. He's got flexibility. I think you could probably even throw him in left if I have seen that correctly. I think the Angels have done that before. I guess only one inning this year, but in the past they've used him more in right field. But yeah, he's a good hitter, and that's what the Royals desperately need now. He's just going to be a little more expensive.
Yeah, he'd immediately be one of your top 3 hitters as far as average and at bats, because yeah, he'd be there at the top. We're not going to get in the conversation of why Bobby doesn't want to start as the leadoff guy, but I think this would be immediately your best other option at leadoff, unless Michael is just scorching hot. Similar-ish players as far as what they're capable, but Luis Rengifo, I think, has a little bit higher ceiling of not just power potential, but putting the ball across the field. Out of that leadoff spot, I think he's been more consistent with it. What do you think it would take to give up to get a guy like this? Because Rengifo is one that's on a lot of teams' radars nationally, not just with the Royals.
Yeah,
one of the better third basemen out there.
I think it would take a little bit more. I think you'd have to give rid of like a Blake Walters or Chandler Champlain, or like maybe Chandler's a little less, so like Chandler and an Austin Charles, another infielder. Like I think you'd have to give up a decent penny, because you have, I think it's a year and a half of control. And again, guy is you're going to get into a bidding war. You may need to give up even more than that, depending on what the Yankees are offering, depending on what the Dodgers are offering. Like there's other teams that need infield help. And if I don't think this is a move the Royals are going to be able to make, just because I don't think they have the inventory to compete with the big dogs. But if other teams are slacking and they're not trying, actually being serious about it, and the Royals can get them on the cheaper end, which is still going to probably be 2 top 10-ish prospects, I think they can go out and make that move.
Yeah, I think the question with Rengifo is he a guy worth moving enough of your high end prospects there versus other potential options out there? Because it is probably going to be somewhat of a bidding war.
Right. The one thing I will add that I do like about Rengifo that I don't know how many teams care about or fans do, he's Venezuelan, and like the Royals have that, like Michael, Salvi, Fermin, Zerpa, Carlos Hernandez down, and like that matters, like that's an instant cultural connection to his new teammates. Like it would make it really easy for him to come. Sometimes, Hispanic players do have a difficult time coming into locker rooms and connecting right away, and I think having that kind of, bringing in a fellow countryman, to Salvi, who's one of the best Venezuelans ever, I think that matters, like as far as the Royals' interest in a player.
Yeah. The other 2 things I like with Rengifo over on Baseball Savant, he's in the 94th percentile in strikeout rate, so he does not strike out a ton, which obviously you want at the top of your lineup. And then he's also, let me rephrase that word. He squares the ball up pretty well. Like for a guy that's batting leadoff, that's going to be getting a lot more at bats. He's a guy who's going to connect with the ball better than some of the other guys lower in the lineup. He's more likely to have that hard hit to start the game, and probably an extra base hit to get going there because of how he squares up the ball. He's top 3rd in baseball for square up rate. But yeah, I like the move there. I think he'd be great. I don't know defensively how he fits in with the way the team likes to play between him and Michael at third, which would be a better. All right, next move, a bullpen piece to upgrade here with the Royals, and that is relief pitcher Lucas Sims from the Reds. Chris, what do you know about Lucas Sims, and why is he an excellent candidate for the Royals?
I think he's cheap and he strikes people out, man. And he's a righty. And I like the lefties that the Royals currently have. So I'm looking more for a righty. That doesn't mean, again, we'll get to a lefty later, that you can't try to go get some top end lefties. But if I'm just picking a cheap bullpen arm, give me a righty that strikes you out. And Lucas Sims does that. I mean, he's striking out 10 per inning. That his career is 10.6. He's got a 3.71 ERA, and I think he'd be cheap. I think you could literally throw like some double A pitcher in your prospect, whether that's like a Steven Zobak, or if they want a position player like a Peyton Willis or a Daniel Vasquez. Like, I don't think it would take someone that the Royals thinks going to be a true impact player down the road to get him, because he's a rental. He's a true rental. He's a reliever. He's not. You're not going to go out and get the closer, but he kind of fits that seventh inning mold, and I think the Royals need that.
Yeah, and again, on Baseball Savant, he ranks as an above average to top third reliever around the league right now. Top third in chase rate, whiff rate, strikeout rate. What are the three things we've talked the most about this bullpen? Those three stats right there, that we don't have enough guys that can do that consistently. So a guy that can come in, throw strikes, and strike guys out. Guys that have the stuff to get the guy. But we need a guy that has proven at this level that he can strike guys out to add into that bullpen. Because with the addition of Hunter Harvey and some of the other guys starting to uptick, you still are kind of missing another reliable righty. We already saw him get rid of Nick Anderson. Good luck to him out there with the Dodgers.
Lyles got picked up by the Dodgers too.
I saw, yeah. And again, we'll have to talk about that another day. Finally have Lyles out too. Yeah, Lucas Sims, I think he slides in perfectly. A guy that could probably come in different types of situations, but a guy that has the stuff to play with the heart of a lineup. Simple when they're young. Probably won't take a lot. The Reds are not. They're still within playoff contention, but they're the NL wild card. There's like 12 teams that are still in it, so they have 24 to 48 hours to decide: do we compete now or go for later? And a bullpen piece for them long term for their long term plans probably isn't going to make or break their future. So easy one to move on. Obviously, their relief pitcher Carlos Estevez, probably one of the biggest names left on the trade market in the reliever spot. High leverage guy that can come into a high leverage situation. He's got experience in the back end of a bullpen. A guy that's going to be in somewhat of a bidding war to go get, because he is one of the better relievers on the market. But you pair that up with also their outfielder Taylor Ward, a guy that you've been high on for most of the season, despite the last 6 weeks he's been rough at the plate, but a guy who's got double-digit home runs, so he's got some pop. He's done that in multiple seasons. He can play the corner outfield spots, rotate around. A guy that still would come in and give you a more consistent at-bat. What do we like about this package, and is there a package the Royals could put together that could pull off getting both these guys?
Yeah, we like it because, like, again, Ward's kind of like Canna, only I think – even though he's down and now a little better, and an extra year of control, which is important. And then Estevez would actually become your closer. Like, he has closer experience. Like, he's the guy that you instantly put in the back end. So that way now you can solely do matchup stuff with Harvey and MacArthur and Zerpa and the rest of the pen. So, like, he's the main prize. Like, I think it's going to be a bidding war. I think if the Royals tried to package this, which I think is a popular probably conversation the Angels are having with other teams as well, it's going to take a lot. Like, I think you're going to have to send out a Drew Waters, a Ben Carduna, maybe even a Gavin Cross, or like, you're going to have to send out a couple top 5 prospects in your system, and probably a player that's ready to step into the major league team right now with some control, like a Drew Waters, like a Nelson Velasquez. Like, someone like that is going to also go with these prospects, and then maybe even a player to be named later. Like, it's going to take a serious package. But out of those names I just said, like, outside of some nice depth, who do we like? We like where this rotation is right now. Like, Carduna, I like a lot, and he's probably going to get his cup of coffee next year if he keeps progressing the way he is. So that one would kind of suck. But outside, like, you're going to have to feel some pain. And outside of him, which is your number 2 overall prospect, like, I'm okay with giving up Waters. I'm okay with giving up Malzaccato, Barnett. I don't want to give up Blake Mitchell. That's some kind of my no-go, and I don't think the Royals do either. But, like, even if they said Blake Mitchell, like, if it helped the Royals for the next couple of years, I think it'd be okay with it.
Yeah, both they fill 2 needs: outfield production, as well as back end high leverage bullpen piece. I look at this move as probably of all the big potential trade package, which I said we've got a bonus one here at the end. That's a bigger trade that would take a lot more. This is probably one that would take the most. Yeah, you're talking those two guys that are probably top 7 prospects: Drew Waters, Nelson Velasquez, Nick Prado, some throw-in stuff. But you get two guys back with a little bit of control that could fulfill immediate needs. I don't know if Taylor Ward fulfills your leadoff spot necessarily with the way he's playing right now. So that's still a question mark. You'd have to figure out how do we continue rotating around between, Michael Garcia, Adam Frazier, and whatever you do there. But Estevez would be fantastic. You pair him up with Hunter Harvey, and you've got a pretty good back end of the rotation or the bullpen, especially with potentially the emergence of Chris Bubich if he continues what he's doing. But yeah, it's gonna take a little bit. I think this is a trade that would, even though he's not a starting pitcher, it would take me back to the trading for Ben Zobrist or Johnny Cueto. You had to give up some high-end pieces there. That's probably a move that would be comparable from years past, but would provide immediate impact. I think Taylor Ward would slide in, be your everyday left fielder. But you still have the ability to rotate around, give Hunter Renfroe a day off, move Ward to right, get Melendez up there, and kind of play around with there. Now, the other one that we could mention here too is maybe you flip Taylor Ward and it's Carlos Estevez and Rengifo. Again, another big trade package. You might have to sprinkle in just a little bit more there, just depending on what the other teams around the league want to do. But the Angels are one. It feels like there's going to be something. There's been too much talk the last few days that the Royals and Angels are in talks on multiple players. So it feels like there's something here in the works that maybe by the time this even breaks, there's news out or something the next day or so. They've moved on a starting pitcher in the middle of the season that they picked up last year. But that is the Tampa Bay Rays. They've got two guys in their bullpen that have been linked to the Royals. Most notably, probably Jason Adam, not only because he's pitched here before, but just because of the type of pitching style he has really fits in. But then the other guy, and he's got some good velo. But yeah, high energy. Jason Adam, I would also like. I think he's been pretty reliable and consistent. So he's a guy you could toss out there 5th, 6th, 7th inning when you need something to just kind of bridge the gap and trust him to bridge the gap. So I like both of those there. Easily would upgrade bullpen immediately. But Jason Adam would be a great steal. It also feels like there's a Rays trade that's going to happen. I think the Royals are very consistent at trading with teams they have deep connections to. Colo already, and now the Rays with the connection with Matty Q. Not the first time. There's actually another Rays player I'd like to trade for, and I know we don't necessarily need another lefty, but I'd love to see them trade for Garrett Clevenger. Another local kid, went to high school with him. Same class as me, would love that. He's had a pretty good season on the numbers as far as if you dive into the deeper stats. His numbers aren't the best at face level, but a lefty that can strike guys out in higher leverage situations. But let's go with Marlins closer Tanner Scott, of course, and then the outfielder / DH guy Brian De La Cruz. We've talked about both these guys before throughout the season. De La Cruz would be a solid power bat in the lineup. He'd immediately be your top 3 best home run hitter. Statistically with Bobby and Salvi, a guy that would probably play a little bit more DH than the outfield. He's not the best of outfielders defensively, and Royals don't want to give up too much defense. So he'd be a guy that would rotate in DH wise, which would definitely help. When Salvi's playing behind the plate, he'd be your everyday DH. I like Brian De La Cruz. I think he's got some nice pop. Don't know how much that would translate to Kauffman Stadium per se, because we know it's not a home run ballpark, but if he can be a power driver in the middle of the lineup there to keep up the production that we're seeing out of that top 6 in the lineup, I think he'd be great. But Tanner Scott's the real price here. He's one of the, if not the best relief pitcher on the market right now in that closer role, high end stuff, strikes guys out, a lefty. You don't really see a ton of the lefty closers out there. I know the Royals have a lot of lefties, but you would take him immediately. What do you like about these two, and what kind of trade package would we have to put together to even sniff the surface of possibility here?
Yeah, De La Cruz, I like. He's got control. He does strike out a little bit too much for my liking, but again, he runs into some home runs, and this team needs some power. He's got 18 this year, so that's something that the Royals could need. And then, again, the main prize is Tanner Scott. It's the guy. Him and Estevez are really the only 2 guys on the market that you can plug into the 9th inning and be like, "Hey, you're our closer." And he's on an expiring contract, but Heyman just reported that the Phillies, Dodgers, and Yankees are also in on him, along with the Royals and the Twins. Yeah. And it's gonna be a bidding war. So if the Royals want to go for it this year and try to get a long-term piece in De La Cruz, I'm not against it. It'd be interesting to see what it is. I think a lot of these other teams we talked about have a catcher. Like the Angels, they have Logan O'Hoppe, so I don't know how much Jensen and Blake Mitchell are on the table. But with the Marlins, I think it might. It's one of those two is going to have to be included. I think you also probably throw in one of your top pitchers, whether it's Walters, whether it's Cardona, and then probably either, like I said, a Waters or a Velasquez or someone that has control that's ready now to kind of offset De La Cruz. That the Marlins can be more patient with because they have the time while the Royals are trying to compete now, and De La Cruz has been better than both of those guys up to this point.
Yeah, would love the move. It's going to cost a lot. Tanner Scott, depending on where you look at, it's probably a top 10 reliever in baseball right now, numbers wise and stuff. So clearly he's going to be highly coveted. A guy that if he is still on the Marlins come post trade deadline, then they are doing a poor job running that team. But he's a guy that's going to command a lot on the open market. And again, those three teams you mentioned all have more to possibly give up. Maybe their prospects don't quite rank with where the Royals are, because Royals have some high end prospects, but those teams are capable of adding more to give up to get a guy like